community, and in Westchester, there were two groups of residents that had also heard about the village movement, and they were in their grassroots way forming their own villages. We started talking, and the Mar Vista group decided to join forces with Wise and Healthy Aging. They liked the idea of being under an already existing nonprofit social services agency, and so we've been together ever since.
Well, that's fantastic. And Santa Monica has to be a very fertile community for something like this to spring up, because it's a mature community.
Yes.
It is upscale, and the people, frankly, have been actively involved in their community for decades.
Very much so. On the west side, there are a number of neighborhood associations that are very active, and so already in place, and also within the churches and the interfaith community, there's a lot of activities and support that is already there that we can tap into.
Well, and to actually harden those connections, the Wise connections, is a great idea, whether it's home repair or home visits or meal service. This is a really good idea.
And it's something that is really catching, this is something that is gaining momentum across the country.
You can see why. In this era of downsizing and budget cuts, we have to take care of this ourselves.
Yeah, and a lot of people are looking at this as they're empowered to take control and be a resource in their community. So there are a number who volunteer their time to work on the village effort to help their neighbors for whatever reason it is. You need help to make it to a medical appointment. You're going to go visit your grandchildren, a ride to the airport. We are looking at seasonal types of activities that we may come out in the fall and say, we're going to have the month of November be rain gutter cleaning month.
And it's going to be intergenerational, too. That's important.
To involve the local, there are various civic opportunities for the kids and the younger groups in the communities to be engaged in, and this is just a wonderful win-win for everyone.
It really is. Grace, I wish you all the best with this, and thank you for making time for us today. Later in the program, we will visit with some more members of the Wise and Healthy Aging team. Thank you for staying with us today, and Grace, thanks to you. This is the CEO of Wise and Healthy Aging here in Santa Monica, and people can contact you. We've had it up on the TV.
Our website.
Right. The website is?
www.wiseconnections.net. Net for network.
There we are. And thank you again. And now it's time for our health checkup with Dr. Gill.
Let's talk about peripheral neuropathy today. Many of you may not have heard of it, but those of you who experience it, you know exactly what it is. But for those of you who don't know what it is, it could be a tingling, it could be a burning, it could be ants crawling on your feet, it can be a numbness of your hands or feet. And that's what we call peripheral neuropathy. All that really means is the end points of your body are undergoing some nerve problems. Now, contrary to popular belief, you might think that if your feet have pain or burning or numbness that the problem may be in your feet, and they may well be. But my experience is that it's generally not in the feet. It's generally coming from some other area. Just like if you get a heart attack, you feel pain in your left arm. Is your left arm the problem? Not necessarily. It's something else. This is what happens in peripheral neuropathy. And the most common causes of peripheral neuropathy are blood sugar problems, brain problems, circulation problems, and lastly, mechanical pressure on the nerves of your hands or feet. So how do you get this problem to begin with? Well, your blood sugar problems, as you get older, your blood sugar is more difficult to control. A very common condition with senior citizens is diabetes. And what happens with diabetics and their feet? They get them chopped off. Well, that's a little bit too late to take care of your peripheral neuropathy. But peripheral neuropathy and diabetes is a very common condition that go hand in hand with each other. That's why blood sugar is so important to control when you're talking about peripheral neuropathy. The second most common cause is a brain discrepancy, and a lot of people don't know this. So I want to show you this picture here, this model here of this brain. This is called the parietal lobe. Now in the parietal lobe here, the parietal lobe has a map of the left and right sides of the body. The left parietal lobe has a map of the right side of the body, and the right parietal lobe has a map of both sides of the body. So if you're having peripheral neuropathy in both of your feet, it's probably more likely you're having a problem in the right parietal lobe rather than both problems in your feet. The other thing about parietal lobe problems is that they hate blood sugar fluctuations. So once again, I'm telling you, one of the easiest ways to help control this peripheral neuropathy is watch your blood sugar. If you're diabetic, that's a sure sign that you're probably going to come down with some kind of peripheral neuropathy in the future. So these are the things you want to watch, is the blood sugar. You want to watch your anti-inflammatory foods. Now, go get this checked out by a professional. Maybe it is in your feet, but the most likely problem is it is not. It's more likely a brain problem or more likely a blood sugar or metabolic problem. If you can't get these conditions checked out and get them taken care of by these professionals, some of these other therapies can help, like brain-based therapy or metabolic nutrition. I'm going to urge you to take care of these blood sugar problems. All senior citizens seem to experience them, but you can take care of it a lot better if you catch it before it becomes a diabetes kind of problem.
We are continuing our conversations today with the Wise and Healthy Aging Center here in Santa Monica. And I'd like to introduce you to Eric Engel, an attorney at law who is also a vice chair of the Mar Vista Wise Connections, correct?
Correct.
All right, Eric, welcome. Thank you for making time for us today. How do you see your function in this? This is kind of a startup program and new, so you're inventing this as you go.
Yes, we are. We're using a village model that was started with Beacon Hill area in Boston. But we are certainly innovating as we go to develop our systems. And it takes a lot of resources, essentially the community. It's a very grassroots sort of oriented proposition. And we've also been fortunate enough to have the resources of Wise and Healthy Aging in Santa Monica to help us with a lot of the administrative aspects.
Yeah, but go to the experts in the field. Boy, I sure had to discover that. And even though there's this big bubble of baby boomers coming into the aging population, the truth is these issues with seniors and the services they need been with us for a long, long time. Some of the things that you're able to help with and coordinate with, when someone is approached about an investment opportunity to kind of give wise counsel, if you will?
Yes, we're actually set up around a one-call does-it-all kind of concept, that we have a single phone number that a member can call for whatever resources they need, whether it's sitting in to listen to a financial investment pitch if they've been approached, for example, or to connect them with an advisory service where they can get independent consultations about whether this is a good idea or not. For example, Wise and Healthy Aging has a reverse mortgage program, for example. That's a common situation.
Right.
We could connect people with that, of course. And often people just seem to want a neutral ear, somebody to sit in and listen and be able to talk to them separately about whether this is a program they might want to get involved in or not. We don't give investment advice per se, that's not the concept, but we would connect them with people who can help them through the situation.
Well, on the issue of finding qualified or being able to recommend qualified vendors, that is a critical issue because seniors, often through their own naivete, can lose their homes with these mechanic liens. And I understand you're in the process of actually qualifying vendors now, whether it's a plumber or a contractor.
That's correct. We've gotten our first applications in our startup program from the vendors, and a lot of them are contractors, of electricians and plumbers and so forth, handymen even. And that process is very important. There are a lot of records that are available. We have the resources to investigate, the contractors that seniors may not always think to go and investigate. And it is very important because seniors can get themselves in a lot of trouble very quickly with a bad contractor.
Well, I know one of the things I like to explain to family members, caregivers, is that you can save yourself a lot of grief if you have a single resource, a place to call, just to make sure you're making the right decisions on behalf of your parents. I love the fact that with Wise and Healthy Aging, it's a membership program, and you can actually purchase a membership for mom and dad. just to protect them.
That's correct, and the idea is, we're there to support the caregivers as well
Right.
as the seniors who are getting the direct service, but the caregivers may well want to call us as well for, telling us there's an issue that we may want to address, and we can contact our members and talk to them about that.
Right. It's especially when you get to end-of-life issues, I know for me, having a fair witness come and sort of manage a family discussion so that we have no hard feelings. These are the facts. These are the issues you're going to be facing. Now, how will we address that? That's very important.
Right, and that's part of the One Call Does It All kind of service, that we can send volunteers, qualified social workers, whatever is needed for the situation to just attend and help facilitate whatever is going on. We held small sessions with people in the early stages of developing the program, small group discussions, and we're continuing to hold living room sessions on those now. And one of the things that struck me in the course of the discussions was that people often just want somebody there for a small event, even as small as, I want to climb a ladder to change a light bulb. I'd really prefer to have somebody there to make sure nothing goes wrong.
That's right. Well, it's hard to give up those household chores that we took for granted when we were young. I mean, cleaning the rain gutters, for example. How many times do you have to see in a newspaper the elderly man up on his roof who, sadly has a fatal fall? And just even if it's someone to say, no, that's not a good idea, or to hold the ladder.
Right.
Now, feedback. We were talking earlier before we sat down today about the feedback, so that members and participants are going to be asked to actively give their impressions of vendors and the services offered.
Yes, that's a very important part of it. Is we intend to call the members after the service is provided, make sure it was completed to their satisfaction, and ask them for general feedback of how well the vendor provided the services. Is there anything that needs to be followed up? And to act as an intermediary if there is any issue with the vendor, to find out what exactly it is. Maybe it's just a follow-up call, or maybe there's a real problem and we need to address that with the vendor.
Eric, thank you so much for coming and joining us today and explaining a little bit more about the program, Wise and Healthy Aging. We'll be back.
Cooking? Washing greasy food byproducts down the sink? Yes? Do you like clogged and blocked sewer lines that might cause a spill in your street or home? No? Well, neither do we. So please use paper towels to wipe oils and grease from your cooking utensils and throw away all the greasy items into the trash can. Doing so will help prevent grease blockages and keep the sewage where it belongs, in the pipes, and help us protect the environment and you.
An emergency can happen at any time. That's why you need to be prepared. Put together an emergency kit with food, water, a first aid kit, a flashlight, radio, and some tools. You're never too old to prepare. Get the message? Be prepared.
And now it's time for another new segment of our Aging in LA show, Caregiver's Corner.
As a family caregiver, one of the biggest challenges is learning to manage our stress. Stress is what happens when we are overwhelmed, having more to do than what we can handle. And so we need to find a way to manage stress. But oftentimes that's easier said than done, isn't it? So let me tell you a little bit about how you can work on it. First, you need to recognize it. Try and figure out what is it that sets you off? What is it that starts to raise your stress level? What are some of the signs that the stress is coming in? Is it because you feel more irritable, because you cry a little easier, you snap at people, or you withdraw? You need to recognize the symptoms so that then you can start taking some steps towards correcting it. Identify the sources of your stress. Is it that you feel you have too much to do? Perhaps you need to delegate some of those tasks. Perhaps you're not getting enough sleep. Perhaps you just feel you're not being understood. Or sometimes it's when you have to answer that same repeated question several times again. So how can you handle it? How can you reduce your stress levels? Think about things that you can do easily, like stepping out of the room, taking some deep breaths, just to catch yourself, collect yourself again. Get some oxygen back into your blood, which goes into your brain and helps you calm down. Perhaps even take a short little walk outside. Find ways that you can try to reduce your stress. Determine what you can and cannot change. Those things that you cannot change, you need to then find a different way to cope with them. But the things that you can change, even the smallest change, can make a big difference. You need to take action. If you identify that you need help and you don't take any action, that can be very detrimental to your health, your mental health, emotional, and physical. So make sure that you start to size up what and how you can make some changes that will improve the situation in caregiving. On the other hand, failure to take action can have all kinds of side effects too. It can bring on depression. It can affect your relationships, not only with the care receiver, but with the entire family. It can be very detrimental to your health. As we say, your mental, emotional, and physical well-being are very important. You may want to change the situation. For example, if the care receiver is taking the medications on their own more often than they should, the situation needs to be changed by you having movement of the medications somewhere where they are not visible. That way they're out of sight, and the care receiver no longer is thinking about taking meds constantly. Another thing you may want to look at is changing the perception of how you view things. If it makes you angry that someone is asking you the same question over and over again, change your perception and understand it's the illness, it's not the person that's trying to be difficult. Change your response. Say, here's a few crackers to hold you until dinner time. We'll be eating at 6 o'clock. Because to say to the person, don't you remember we always eat at 6 o'clock, that's really not helping the situation. But the way you respond to it settles things down for everybody, and it makes for a better quality of life for the whole family.
Now we're going to visit with Barbara Browning, a longtime Santa Monica resident, recently retired, who now volunteers for the Wise and Healthy Aging Program. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now, volunteering can be very satisfying or sometimes so frustrating. But as a case manager with the local hospital here, you have seen how many needs there are with seniors.
Yes, and there isn't a senior that doesn't have a need that I don't feel that we can address.
And that's very important. From basic transportation, how do you get the bus pass or to get to the doctor's appointment, to more serious issues like making sure the medications are appropriate.
Yes, and sometimes people just want to be checked on.
Yes.
The security of sons and daughters, nieces and nephews that are busy.
And I'm struck by how often seniors are living alone, and they need someone to help them.
There is, and that's a choice that they've made, that they want to remain in their home, and they want to remain as independent as possible.
Well, and of course, being able to age in place in your home is a great comfort to our seniors.
Yes, it is.
Now, delivering services to the home, things like checking on, I don't know, making sure the rugs are tied down and that there are grab bars in the bathroom facilities, these are all things that you can help with, right?
Yes, definitely. And as we go into the home, we can identify things that maybe other people might not identify.
Oh, yes, indeed, and that's important. Now, as a person starting up a program, are you relying on the contacts you've made over all the years to go and talk to people, say, come and join us for a conversation?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
And that's a good place to start because people know you and hopefully you have a reputation that they can trust. So that's really where you have to start. And then with the contacts that they have, it will grow.
Well, and it needs to, because with Wise and Healthy Aging, it is a community-based program, and Santa Monica is wonderful about that because there is an existing sense of community.
Yes, it is, and people in certain neighborhoods know each other.
Right.
But this also provides an opportunity that they have some privacy too, that they can manage, make a phone call, and get the needs met without contacting their neighbors or their families sometimes.
Well, I keep telling people, don't be embarrassed about asking for help. For example, having meals delivered is not a sin. It is not something to be embarrassed about. It's a service that is offered to our communities.
Yes, it definitely is, but to the older person, sometimes it's assigned to them that they can't do something.
Oh, okay.
So if they can be the ones that can initiate the phone call and do it through an outside agency, it's easier for them often.
And it's important, too, for caregivers to have a resource so they can bounce ideas off them or express their concerns.
Yes, and older people often are more receptive to outside suggestions to those within their family.
Yeah, just none of that family baggage.
Yes. Right, exactly.
Well, of course. And what I've found, too, is that some of our older volunteers who may be candidates for these kind of services are actually quite energetic and committed to their community.
Oh, they are, and the beauty of this is that you can be member and you can be a volunteer also.
All at the same time.
So you can reach out and yet receive the services yourself.
We're going to take a look now at the Santa Monica Governing Council as they have a discussion.
Number 7 on our agenda, talking about some event or a potential open house in January of next year.
Okay. What comes to mind for me right away is to have maybe posters of different villages or different aspects of the program that people could actually go around and look at, and perhaps one of us could be at each station to talk about, I don't know, we can think about the content of the posters. If we plan a short piece of time for some kind of presentation, we could have a little panel of maybe 3 members.
You might want to have some little keynote or I don't want to say a celebrity, but it could be an official, someone elected official or celebrity or somebody might be nice to help, get some, for promotions and getting some attention. I don't know who that would be, but
Really good.
Well, we could think about that. Might be someone who would be.
We just don't want to have too much of a program.
yeah.
No,
Too much, or we could have things at different times.
I think that's a great suggestion.
And now it's time to hear from Brenda Barnett from the Department of Animal Services.
I'm here with my little friend Fiona, who is a shelter animal that I have at home with me on foster care. And foster care for adult animals is one of our newer programs. So Fiona is 7 to 10 years old. She's a perfect companion for the Seniors for Senior program. And what's really neat about the foster program is not only is Fiona getting the home care that she deserves, but she also is gaining a little bit of weight, and I've learned some very neat things about her. She's house trained. She likes to walk on a leash. She loves to sit on your lap. So, when we have these little dogs out in foster care, we learn a lot about them that we can share with the adopters. The same thing is true for the kitties. Sometimes you'll have a kitty in the shelter who just seems like she's a little depressed, she's not paying much attention. You take one of those kitties at home, let it sit on a lap for a few days, let it get hand treats, and it's great because when they come back, then they're looking for the person to pet them. So another way that you can help with at the shelter is to take home some of these companion animals and let them stay with you for a few days, a few weeks, or a few months, and it expands the walls of our shelter without us having to build more shelter space. So we heartily recommend, and we're looking for help with this foster care program. You can get foster animals at all the shelters. It's a program that we're rolling out. We're starting at a couple of the shelters, and then it will start in all the shelters. So this is a great supplemental way. It's also a way to take an animal home, foster it for a little while, and if you happen to fall in love with your foster, then you can go ahead and adopt it. Now, that's not going to happen for me and Fiona because I have other dogs at home, and Fiona probably wants to be the only dog in your life. So, Fiona needs to go to a home where there's maybe one other dog or no dogs at all, and she'll be your best friend for life.
That's all the time we have for today's show, and I sure hope you enjoyed the new format. I'm Paul Peterson, and I hope to see you again for Aging in L.A.
Welcome to the Pacific Palisades, and you're watching Channel 35. It's our city and our channel.
Good morning, Los Angeles, and welcome to the City Council meeting for Tuesday, the 22nd of March, 2011. We are in the John Ferraro Council Chambers, room 340 of City Hall, where we meet every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday at 10 a.m., and I want to thank members of the public who have joined us here today. I'm Council President Eric Garcetti, joined by my colleagues Herb Wesson, Bill Rosendahl, Bernard Parks, Tom LaBonge, and we are awaiting a quorum. With that, that takes us to 5 members. but we are still awaiting the following council members: Mr. Alarcon, Mr. Weezer, Mr. Koretz, Mr. Krikorian, Ms. Perry, Mr. Smith, and Mr. Zine, who are now late. If they will please join us as soon as possible. Mr. Cardenas, Ms. Hahn, and Mr. Reyes are excused today for the meeting. Want to thank the members of the public who have joined us here in council chambers in room 340 here in John Farrell Council Chambers. We also are available online and through the television. On television, it is Channel 35 throughout the city's cable system, and online it's lacity.org, our main webpage there online, which you can click on, and there is on-demand streaming video as well as archive footage of our past meetings. We also have all of the supporting material for the items that we are voting on, our agendas and reports available to the public online at lacity.org if you click on the City Council link. Lastly, you can always follow us through your telephone or in one of our remote City Hall locations. Those two locations are in Van Nuys and San Pedro, and the number for your telephone to listen into our meetings is 213-621-CITY. That's 213-621-CITY. We now have 8 members. Thank you to Council Members Koretz, Labange, Parks, Rosendahl, Smith, Wesson, and Zine. Still awaiting Mr. Alarcon, Mr. Weezer, Mr. Krikorian, Ms. Perry. If the 3 of them will please join us as soon as possible, we will begin shortly. Thank you for your patience, and if we fail to reach a quorum, we will adjourn for lack of a quorum. Thank you, and we will begin shortly. Thank you, Ms. Hahn and Ms. Perry. With that, we have a quorum. Madam Clerk, if you please call the roll.
Alarcon, Cardenas, Hahn, Weezer, Koretz, Krikorian, Labange, Parks, Perry, Reyes, Rosendahl, Smith, Wesson, Zine, Garcetti. 10 members present, a quorum, Mr. President.
Thank you. First order of business, please.
Approval of the minutes.
All right, Ms. Hahn moves and Mr. Koretz seconds. Without objection, those will be approved. Next order of business.
Commendatory resolutions.
All righty, Mr. Smith moves and Mr. Zine seconds. Without objection, those will be approved as well. If I can ask everybody please to rise for our Pledge of Allegiance. It is Tuesday when we salute our nation's flag. And Ms. Hahn, would you be kind enough to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance today?
Thank you. Please join me in pledging allegiance to our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Ms. Hahn. Colleagues, if I can direct your attention to today's agenda. We'll run through the agenda before taking up our public comment. And with that, Madam Clerk, first items, please.
Items number 1 and 2 are ordinances noticed for public hearing.
Do we have cards on either of those?
No.
Okay, let's close the public hearings. Let's hold those on the table till we have 12 members. We're still awaiting Mr. Weezer and Mr. Krikorian. Next items, please.
Items 3 through 5 are items for which public hearings have been held. Items 3 and 4 are commission appointments. Do you wish to hold those on the desk?
Yes, please. Let's hold the commission appointments on the desk. Does anybody wish to call 5 special? Item number 5, anybody? If not, let's go ahead and please prepare the roll on item 5 and tabulate the vote.
10 ayes.
That is approved. Let's turn to the next items, please.
Items 6 through 30 are items for which public hearings have not been held. 10 votes are required for consideration.
Okay.
On item 28, there is a request to continue this matter to April 5th.
Okay, is there any objection to considering these items? Colleagues, if not, let's go ahead and consider those. Item 28 to continue to the 5th of April if there's no objection, so ordered. Special items. Do we have cards on any of these items?
There are cards on items 23 and 25.
Okay, 23 and 25 we'll call special, and we'll close the other public hearings. Mr. Zine would like 15 special. Other specials? Anybody called number 6 special too, or just 15, Mr. Zine? Just Was that 15 or 6? Okay. When you hold up your fingers, it gets so confusing. We'll call number 6 special. Other specials, colleagues? If not, let's go ahead and take up the balance. Please prepare the roll and tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
All right, those are approved. Let's go ahead and take up the cards on the special items real quick. On number 23, General Jeff, if you'd like, come forward. And Tony Butka will follow after that, and after that will be Dr. Clyde Williams.
We already did these, so now we already voted on them. Yeah. So I'm keeping them?
Yeah. Good morning, Council. My name is General Jeff. I'm a community activist for Skid Row. I'm also on the Board of Directors for the Downtown Los Angeles Neighborhood Council. I move to support that this item because it's very imperative that we get more funding in the Skid Row community. There are lots of sidewalks and streets with potholes that need to be repaired. I've worked closely with Bureau of Street Services and also BSL to repair some of the street lights that are currently out even at this moment. And I've also worked very closely with the Department of Recreation and Parks. And I would definitely hope that we can get some more exercise equipment in at Gladys Park, which is owned by Rec and Parks, because and also in terms of redeveloping buildings, we need to redevelop the people. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate your comments. Tony Butka is our next speaker, then Dr. Clyde Williams right after that. Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Tony Butka. I've been a resident of Glacel Park, and I'm speaking against item number 23 for two reasons. One is the CRA memo that is in front of you to be voted on is an absolute masterpiece of obfuscation. You can't figure out what it means. To the extent that the proposal means that they're going to simply bury money into existing city departments to have existing city employees perform the work, you can probably do it. To the extent this is a way to bury staff people from the CRA into existing city departments, I think you have problems with the civil service system, the California merit system, the charter of the City of Los Angeles, and the reporting relationships, evaluation, and assignment relationships. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Dr. Clyde Williams is our next speaker.
Dr. Clyde Williams, 4115 Barrett Road, El Sereno, Northeast LA. Also board member on the LA 32 Neighborhood Council. Well, welcome to the CRA fire sale. Over $50 million will be approved with this. Diversion from the CRA accounts to various other accounts. How about trees? Urban forestry needs another $5 million. That would be nice. Hey, that would really help. They haven't been able to plant their 1 million trees that the mayor wanted. So maybe we should also add for the urban forestry department group, adding maybe 15,000, 20,000 trees. Hey, $5-10 million. Where is all this money coming from? Why wasn't it spent before? Where does the money go? Can we ever find that out within CRA? We had them come to LA 32 Neighborhood Council and they gave us a presentation. Question: how much money did they get from 90032 zip code? Well, we don't know. We don't break it out that way. How much money did you put into LA 32 Neighborhood Council? Well, we don't break it out that way. We can never find the track. So here's another $50 million taken away from the CRA for redevelopment, affordable housing, various other things, and put over to city services. How about Wilshire Boulevard? I've heard that Wilshire needs a lot of pothole replacements and curb improvements. So maybe if there's any money left in CRA, maybe it should be diverted to the Wilshire corridor, because that would be a very significant redevelopment after you plant 15,000, 20,000 trees. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let's go ahead on 23 and prepare the roll, if there's no members of council. wishing to be heard, and tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
As approved. 25, Tony Bucko, if you'd like to come forward on 25 as well. And then we'll take up the commission appointments, and then we'll come back for general public comment.
Thank you. My name's Tony Butka. I'm a resident of Gliselle Park, and I don't understand the purpose or authority for item number 25. The sole source contract for legal services was originally to handle EREP issues of city employees who are retiring and who have all retired by January of 2011, so that's done. So it is unclear from the memorandum exactly what services Mr. Spivak would perform under the sole source agreement, and I would point out that when the CRALA does away with itself, there would be no client for him to work for that is enumerated in this document. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Any members wishing to be heard on 25? If not, let's go ahead and prepare the roll on 25, and please tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
As approved. Sorry? Oh, okay. If we can, Mr. Krikorian is here, if we can record that. If we can record Mr. Krikorian as part of that. And items 1 and 2 we can take up as ordinances now. Okay, well, we have cards on that, so we'll hold those. We'll go to the commissioners next, and with that, I think we are still awaiting a report on item 4. But Ms. Alvarez, if you'd like to come forward on item number 3, I'd like to recognize the chair of our Arts and Parks Committee, Mr. Tom LaBonge.
Thank you very much, Mr. President and members. Ms. Alvarez is a dedicated mother, dedicated wife, dedicated attorney, dedicated activist who cares about people, selected by Mayor Villaraigosa to fill a seat on the Board of Recreation and Parks. And I say all that before and preface this because her beautiful family is right here, of her 3 boys and her 1 big boy, and Steve. Steve, good to see you. Ms. Alvarez is going to talk about her passion. She was in committee this morning before Mr. Wesson and myself. We have a strong recommendation and ask you, Ms. Alvarez, to tell us why you want to serve on this commission and how you're going to help the city of Los Angeles. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and good morning, President Garcetti and City Council members. It is really an honor for me to be considered for this position. I have a deep appreciation for the vital role that parks play in a safe and green Los Angeles. I have been a resident of Los Angeles since 1984. For the first 12 years of my career, I was a public interest lawyer working with immigrants and refugees throughout Los Angeles. I taught at USC and at UCLA, immigration law and professional ethics. In the last 15 years of my career, I've been in the field of philanthropy, working with foundations in the Los Angeles area, such as the California Endowment, the California Community Foundation, the Weingard Foundation, Hilton Foundation. And through this work, it has given me the opportunity to work with communities throughout Los Angeles on issues such as education, the arts, youth violence, the environment, foster youth, and health. All of these issues are touched directly by our Recreation and Parks Commission and the wonderful park system that we have in our city. Sandwiched in between these 2 careers, I was also the executive director for People for Parks for approximately 6 months. On a personal level, I'd like to say, as you see behind me, my family, Steve Nissen, my 3 boys, Daniel, Matthew, and Teddy, they have all been users of our parks since the day they were born, playing flag football, baseball, tennis, you name it. They've played it at dozens of parks throughout this fair city. I know that we face some very difficult financial situations in the coming years and months, and I pledge to do my best to use my skills to minimize the impact that these budget cuts are going to have on the services that our parks provide. And I am deeply grateful for the opportunity to be considered today.
So members, this is a great person who will do a tremendous job, great experience, and I recommend an aye vote.
Thank you, Mr. LaBonge. We have 2 speakers on the queue so far. Mr. Rosendahl is our next speaker.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Good morning, everybody. I've known Steve for years. He used to be on my television show back in the cable days. But what I loved most about what you said is your experience and understanding of parks, firsthand with 3 sons who go to the park, so you know what they're all about. And secondly, your philanthropic background. This is the time when the public-private partnership must happen. I don't want to close any parks. I don't want to cut back in any services in parks, no matter what the budget situation is. That philanthropic experience you have, coupled with now being on the board, is a dramatic plus for all of us. I think what you will be able to do is think out of the box and be creative and find ways in which that public-private partnership can work. And wherever I can help you, I know in my district, we have lots of community group people involved in various aspects. I was a bit disappointed up in Brentwood where we have a park where the community came up with $5 or $6 million, but I couldn't get the department and the city to work together in such a way to make it happen. I feel that I failed on that particular project. And I really think that your leadership on that board will help us develop that public-private partnership. So I wish you the best of success and thank you for stepping up.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Hahn is our next speaker. After that is Mr. Alico.
Hi, thank you, and good morning. You know, one of the problems I see citywide, which I would love for the commission and the department to really focus on, and that's our inability to have pieces of property transferred to the Department of Rec and Parks that may have brownfield issues. And there are some properties that we have been working with the railroads. I know I've been working on one piece of property for probably 9 years. The railroads are ready to give it to us. And yet, as you know, assuming that kind of liability is something that we have not figured out yet how to do. Would love to have you, focus the department on figuring out some way to either purchase insurance or, really there's funding available to clean up some of these properties, but they're obviously in our poor neighborhoods in Los Angeles, neighborhoods that are less served usually by open space and recreation and park facilities. And it just seems to be a problem we can't figure out how to get around. And I would love it if the department would focus on that. I know they're short-staffed. I know they're being whittled down every day, but it would be nice. I know I've tried to focus on that from my level, but it would really be a citywide initiative that I think would be important for maybe for you to get your other commissioners just to look at to see if there was a way that we could begin to take these properties and turn them into parks and find money for cleanup and then find money for insurance purposes. So it just seems to be a problem. I can't figure out how to get around it, and maybe the department would be willing to take a look at that.
I think there's a lot of possibility there, and I look forward to looking into that and talking about this further.
Right, and the other thing I'd love for you to focus on is the housing developments, have recreation and parks facilities on these developments. Again, poor neighborhoods, underserved neighborhoods, staff is being cut, programs are being cut, and just really feel like these are part of our city that always seems to get less, always seem to be underserved, and of course they're the neighborhoods where these kids most need after school programs and recreation facilities, or the consequences I think are much worse sometimes in other parts of the city. So I would love for you to focus on those.
Thank you.
Okay. Well,
thank you, Mr. Alico. And as our next speaker.
Council members, I think this is one of the best nominations that the mayor has made to any commission for any particular job. Ms. Alvarez, notwithstanding the fact that you have a wonderful spouse behind you, that's always a wonderful. I didn't even know he was your husband, but this is exactly what the Department of Rec and Parks needs. We need somebody who understands the foundation process, the grant-making process, and who can build partnerships with those organizations and others to bring in resources that we've been cutting. I mean, you can start with our child care programs at the Department of Recreation and Parks. We have to get those programs back so that those kids can be safe in our parks and cared for by professionals. Otherwise, they're probably just being babysat someplace, or perhaps their parents, usually their mother, will lose their jobs because they don't have appropriate child care. And having worked for people in parks, I think that's the correct orientation, that the parks need to emerge as community vehicles in and of themselves. They have to be community institutions in and of themselves. Folks, the reason I say this is the best appointment is because Recreation and Parks has been in the grant-making business as long as any department. And we rely on their ability to acquire grants for us to manage our system. Well, this is not only somebody who has the experience of working in grants organization, she is the professor that teaches grant making. And so I believe that she is not only the one to get the grant section of Recreation and Parks accelerated and focused and connected with grant providing organizations throughout the country. I also believe she is the one that will lead every single park director to have a better understanding of how to utilize small grants in their neighborhoods. Because frankly, our parks directors have a really tough time, particularly in those underserved geographic areas where they don't have wealthy businesses that will adopt the local park. And so I'm hopeful that Lynn will be in a leadership model to get every single recreational director to raise more money in their own community, notwithstanding the economic crisis, to assist in managing each and every park, and on a broader scale, bring grants opportunities to the Rec and Parks Department when we are cutting their budget. I believe that it was very wise of the mayor to appoint Lynn Alvarez. I would like to know actually how much money you've already lined up to come to the system. Well, we can have that conversation separately. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. We've got Mr. Krikourian, Ms. Perry, Mr. Zine, and Mr. LeBons for a second time. Mr. Krikourian.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to echo my colleagues, especially Mr. Alarcon's very strong statement about the strength of this appointment. I've known Lynn Alvarez now for 30 years. I can barely believe it, and the words catch in my throat as I say it. But we went to law school together, and I can tell you that she is not only a person of extraordinary capability, but a person of extraordinary ethics. And as Mr. Rosendahl said, I think that the philanthropic background and experience she's had is exactly what we need in that department at this exact time. But more than that, aside from the philanthropic background, I know from personal experience that Lynn is a fierce and relentless advocate and organizer for youth. She's been very active at North Hollywood Highly Gifted Magnet School in my district, and has been just a tremendous champion for young people. And I know that in this new capacity, again, that's exactly what we need at a time of such diminishing resources, and a time when we have to be creative and figure out new solutions for ways to deliver these vital services. I know that she's exactly the right person, so I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Ms. Perry.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. And Ms. Alvarez, when you become a commissioner, I was wondering if you could keep this in mind and possibly help me and help all of us with this. For people who give money to the parks, or for people who adopt a portion of a park or a program or make a contribution, it's been extremely difficult to be able to track if that money is actually spent, and if it is actually spent in a way that it was directed. And one park I'd like you to look at in particular is Augustus Hawkins Nature Park, because I think we could pull more contributions if we could assure people that the money they give or the items they contribute are used in the manner in which they're donated. And with your experience and background in that, perhaps you can help us set up some procedures and some processes to guarantee that and to document it in a way that is public also. So I'd appreciate your help on that.
Absolutely.
Thanks.
I look forward to it.
Thanks.
Mr. Zine.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to offer you congratulations. I know you can start NBC Universal. They may be very supportive of the parks. Right, Steve? But a lovely family. I know your husband. We worked together on some projects, and I wish you well. You're obviously well qualified for this commission position, and hearing from my colleagues who know you personally give you the great approval. So good luck and congratulations on this.
Thank you.
Mr. Labange.
So, members, we have a great commissioner. It's great to see that. I do want to remind there is a Los Angeles Parks Foundation, and also, Ms. Perry, I'm concerned about what you said because I've always tracked things, but we have to put more focus on it. We absolutely should. And also, we want to be careful, Mr. Zine, in all our relationships as commissioners, whenever our relationships are, to make sure we do the right thing in a transparent way. But we do need public-private partnerships. So we thank you. We thank your beautiful family for coming down and seeing you get appointed today. And members, I call for a vote.
Thank you very much, Mr. Labange, and congratulations again on the nomination and offering to serve. Let's go ahead and make it official with a vote. If we can please, Madam Clerk, open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
I think that's a very enthusiastic yes. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
And welcome aboard. We have one other commission appointment. I'd like to ask Mr. Moss to come forward on number 4, and like to recognize the chair of our Energy and Environment Committee, Ms. Perry.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. We spoke with Mr. Moss this morning in Energy and Environment, and I think his ethics file should be on the way downstairs by now, and asked him to talk about his experience and his qualifications to serve on the Board of Water and Power Commissioners, and talk about his goals and initiatives that he hopes to initiate during his term. And he had some interesting comments to say about the billing format, which he has promised to help us get rolling, even though it's been a while, and his impressions and thoughts about the Integrated Resources Plan.
Thank you, Councilmember Perry, and good morning, Council President Garcetti and the rest of the council members. I too am very honored to have received this appointment to the Board of Water and Power Commissioners. For those of you who don't know me, I have a lifetime of experience as a native-born Los Angelino with the DWP, both as a customer and as a concerned citizen. I'm an attorney by training and a business person in the San Fernando Valley, own and operate office buildings, and as an attorney worked primarily in the real estate arena, both on litigation and transactional side. So I have a very good background of, with respect to contracts, with negotiations, mediation, business operations, and I plan to bring all of those skills to bear in my activities as a commissioner to make sure that this jewel of the city of Los Angeles is preserved and strengthened, and we, that the customers of DWP, the citizens of Los Angeles, maintain receiving the best service that they possibly can from DWP. Also, in addition to my business professional activities, I've been very active in philanthropic organizations such as the Anti-Defamation League, the Guardians of the Jewish Home for the Aging, University of California, Santa Cruz. I'm an officer of the foundation there, and also in with respect to business groups in the San Fernando Valley. I'm a leader of one of the primary business groups in the San Fernando Valley. So I hear from the business community quite strongly about some of their concerns of DWP, especially with the rate structures. And then, having been briefed by the DWP, it's very apparent to me that the DWP is facing some significant challenges over the next decade. There are a number of regulatory mandates that it is going to need to observe with respect to coal-fired plants, energy conservation, renewables, and sustainables. And I think it's vitally important that DWP work well with all of its stakeholders to develop a plan to handle those challenges over the next decade, and do it in a way so that the customers of DWP do not get unfairly burdened with the costs of meeting all those requirements, many of which are all good, but many of which have been imposed by outside agencies, not by the DWP itself. So with that, I'd like to offer up any answers to questions that you might have.
Thank you very much, Mr. Moss. We've got 4 speakers on the queue so far. Mr. Rosendahl is our first.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Good morning.
Good morning.
We had a very good meeting yesterday, and I appreciate, first of all, you're a Brentwood resident, so the 11th District is proud to have you serve on the commission. The three areas we talked about, first was solar. We're very big on solar. Mar Vista has been leading the way in the entire city, and a lot of folks throughout the city would like to go solar. A lot of people have flat roofs, and it is sunny Southern California. The challenge is, how do we move forward with that? There's the tariff thing. What is it called, Jan? Feed and tariff. Okay? Feed and tariff, which Fran Pavley first pushed out for us to do, which basically means that we can have a reverse meter that we can feed into the grid and into the system. And then there's also various subsidies and rebates and so on and so forth. And I look forward to your leadership in looking at some of the issues that the department has. In other words, there are enough people processing it. There are people who have been waiting in line for a while. There are a lot of people who would like to get part of the program. How do you see yourself working in that renewable area, solar in particular?
Well, as I answered yesterday when we talked about this issue, I have a significant amount of experience working with DWP rate programs in my own business, and I found them, while well-intentioned, to be not as productive and as robust as they need to be. And we need to work at that, and that's one of my personal goals, to look at that both on the residential side and also the commercial side, that DWP is offering up the best rebate programs possible, but more importantly, that they're really accessible to people, that they're meaningful to people, and that the requirements of the programs aren't such so that the programs become less meaningful to the customers. Because we do need to retrofit our homes and our office buildings and our factories, and that is going to be a significant part of the strategy for DWP to ensure it's good service in the future.
Excellent, because we got to get off of the coal. We got to get off of all of these things that toxicate our air, and we are sunny Southern California. Last point is citizen involvement. There are a lot of folks involved with DWP who question the bill, who question how the monies are done, how the situation is done. In my district, there was the scattergood line that was going in, and the community got highly engaged. Do you see yourself linking with the community enough so that they feel part of the process?
Well, thank you for that. And this kind of also I'd like to address Councilmember Perry's point about the new bill. The DWP, let's face it, has not done as good a job with its communications to its customers. And one of the personal goals that I have as commissioner is to really drill down into that and try and improve basic communications. The first item that I know is the DWP has been working on is a new billing format.
Right.
I've seen a draft of it. It looks much better. I'm very frustrated when I review my bills, and I have lots and lots of bills that I review every month. I sometimes can't make heads or tails of them. I think this new billing format will go a long way towards bringing more transparency and more better understanding to the customers. So that's one area. Another area is just generally getting out the word what the challenges that DWP is going to be facing over the next decade, and how we as a community, all of us, are going to face those challenges. So on both of those points, I really am going to work hard on that.
And thank you for stepping up. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Mr. Zine.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to acknowledge your dad, your mom, and your wife there in the audience here to obviously show moral support for you. I know the family tradition, the San Fernando Valley. Lee Alpert was on the commission. He's moved on to other activities. And this is your first time as a commissioner?
Yes, that's correct.
It's going to be challenging. It's going to be interesting. The whole issue that comes up about water and power is that the valley getting their fair share of the rates. It's hotter in the summertime and the air conditioning, et cetera. So I know your sensitivity to the valley, the stakeholders that you have in the San Fernando Valley. But water and power has gone through a lot of challenges, a lot of criticism, and I trust that with your experience, with your love for the city and the San Fernando Valley, as well as all parts of Los Angeles, you'll be an outstanding commissioner. But it will be challenging. It will be exciting, sometimes controversial, but know that this body will support you in your position there doing the people's work, because without water, without power, obviously the city will suffer all types of tragedy. So I wish you well in that. I don't have any questions for you, but I know what your family has done for the San Fernando Valley and for the city of Los Angeles throughout the year. So congratulations on behalf of a stakeholder in the San Fernando Valley.
Thank you very much. I very much look forward to working with you.
Thank you, Mr. Zine. Mr. Alarcon is next, then Mr. Smith.
Richard, have you had your blood pressure checked recently?
It's very steady.
Thank you. And your heart is...
I don't know about my mental capacities, but my blood pressure is
that was actually my third question. But by virtue of you sitting here, we already knew the answer to that one. I can tell you, I've known this family for quite a number of years, dating back to my days with Mayor Bradley's office, and including Richard. And this is a family that truly embraces the notion of Tikkun Olam, and they really believe in that their service to the community is to repair the world. And as much as they have focused on business and been very successful at it, there is always a giving element to this family, and so we greatly appreciate your history and the future. The most important thing, and I've said this in many different ways on the council floor, is that the DWP have a more trusting relationship with the ratepayers. There seems to be a sort of historical institutional wisdom that the ratepayers are afraid or will not make the right decisions if given all the information, and try to rush decisions through without fully disclosing information. And I don't know where that emanates from. It could go back to the days of Mulholland, I don't know. But we need to create a new day at DWP, a day that trusts that the ratepayers know can make decisions related to getting what they pay for. They just want to know what they're getting for what they're paying. And so I'm encouraged by the work you've already looked into with regard to the bill, because that's the most confusing thing, I think, in city dynamic. And I'm hopeful that we can improve the bill so that they know what they're paying for. But more importantly, you help create a DWP that is more informative to the public, so that they trust. I believe that ratepayers will embrace even increases in rates as long as they understand what it is going for, and it's going for the things that they believe in. And I believe you're the kind of person that will improve upon that situation. Not going to put the whole burden on you, because the system's just too big. But you are definitely the right kind of person, and I wish you well, and know that we applaud you for your service. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Alarcon. Mr. Smith is next.
Well, Richard, congratulations. As for the question Mr. Alarcon asked about your blood pressure and your sanity, both are going to change. So I'll guarantee you that. It's a pleasure to be here and say I'm going to vote for you. You touched on two things I have real passion about with water and power. We've gone from an agency 20 years ago that produced power and moved water to an agency that's very complex, with a lot of pressures on a lot of ways. You talk about regulatory controls and issues that we're facing. As you look at that, and coming from a business point of view, there has to be a voice on the board, and there's been a few here and there, but not a consistent voice against management. And I say against management because I am of the opinion that the thing that's really messed up water and power has been the appointment of politicians to manage the department rather than water and power people. I think with Ron Nichols we have that fixed. But we need a voice that constantly says, this is very good, but can we afford to do it all? Or can we do it all over time? We need to have that business point of view, which I think you will bring. And I encourage you to not be afraid of the union, not be afraid of management. Speak your mind, because I know you. You're a very bright and intelligent man from a very successful family, and I want you to bring that opinion. And don't be at all enamored with what they may say. And I say that because what has happened here in the last 5 or 6 years is this council has had to ask questions of water and power management about the numbers they bring, the figures they bring, the analysis they bring, because we haven't believed it. And when we checked it, we found out often it wasn't true. And that's what brought about the angst that was on the ballot in this last election, the charter changes that is going to mandate oversight and review. I think we're going into a new world, and it's a better world. You're going to be part of a very exciting change at the Department of Water and Power, and I just want to wish you luck there. I will be gone from this chamber in 4 months. but you know where I live. I know George knows where I live. Give me a call if you want an outside point of view, because I will be sitting in the pews rather than on this side of the wire over there. But that's what we need. We need a voice that's really going to dig down, look at the numbers, and question them. Don't take them on their face value. Use your business sense, because that's what you're going to bring to that board. So I congratulate you. I look forward to you being a great success over there. I know you will be. But the challenges are immense at Water and Power. They're bigger than they've ever been before. And we need a calm voice over there. We need a business voice over there, and someone who understands how to make a thing work, because the department is broken right now. So good luck to you. Your blood pressure is going to go up. I hope your sanity holds. And George and Bettina, all the family, God bless you all. You've been great, great citizens of the city of L.A. and the Valley for a long time, and you'll be a great commissioner. So good luck to you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Labange.
Thank you very much, Mr. Moss. Thank you for agreeing to serve the city of Los Angeles. There's great history in the Water and Power. Just in 2 short years, we'll celebrate the 100th anniversary of William Mulholland's greatest feat, which is the aqueduct that brings water to the Pueblo. I think there's a lot what Mr. Smith said in repetition as far as being able to be the voice that's common. I think it's very clear that it has to be about business of water and power, because that's what it is intended to be. And it has great history, and to manage the people who are there, to make sure they manage properly. One thing that I'm working on, members, is to alleviate some of the restrictions we put on Water and Power as it relates to infrastructure improvements in streets and no construction during peak hours, because crews have to sit. I want to change the hours. And if they have to have traffic officers to help, Water Power has agreed to pay for that to get the work done. Right now, the river supply conduit is coming across the floor of the valley. We'll be coming through other neighborhoods as well, through Griffith Park, through Silver Lake, Los Feliz. And to be able to work to get the job done is so key. And I also want to compliment something that Water Power did several years ago. They surveyed that many branches do fall from trees that do service interruptions. They have had an aggressive program on tree trimming. Sounds real simple. But if you could see from this last weekend that had ferocious winds, the number of outages in the Los Angeles Department of Water Power service areas is much reduced as it compared to our friends in Southern California Edison, and a lot has to do with that tree trimming program. So basic stuff, and to project a relationship with the neighborhood associations, the neighborhood councils, the neighborhood business associations, the larger trade groups. All of them are very important because everybody's a stakeholder, all of them. And the other thing I asked, I know Mr. Rosendahl spoke out about Champion Solar. I want to see a champion on our library rooftops and our park and recreation facilities, our gyms, so that we, as the city, could help keep those buildings open longer hours if we could reduce the cost of the electricity and other power that goes to it. Thank you very much, and it's a great history there, and add to it with your great history from your family. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Labange. Mr. Parks.
Good morning, sir. Welcome to the City Council and to the Commission. There's just 3 things I'd ask you to look at, and certainly don't expect a response today. But one of the things that is of great concern is that currently NDWP, 40% of their operating capital is being spent on pensions alone. And so there's certainly a need to look at that and to address that, because there's no way to sustain that. The other issue, and it should be coming through the Commission shortly, the medical plans have increased 157% in the last 10 years, compared to the City of LA and other resources is somewhere about 108 to 109%, significantly high at 10% per year, but theirs is well above the norm. And the third item is that and this is not something that commissioners have done, but it's certainly something that we're going to be more sensitive to. There's a major disparity in salaries. In some instances, there's positions within city government, such as dispatchers and accountants, that make 40% less money just because they do not work DWP. So those are 3 issues that will come across your desk that I hope that you could be sensitive to, because these are things that are driving costs as to ratepayers, and although over here we call them constituents and voters, over there they call them ratepayers, they're the same people. And so what drives those rate increases have more to do with the internal costs as opposed to what we constantly hear when a rate increase is being proposed, is that people are saying, let's go fix the infrastructure, let's go green, and you find as these rates go up, it's more about the operational costs than basically what's been promised in those other areas. And so we'd ask you to be sensitive to those three areas. Thank you.
I will certainly do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Parks. Mr. Garcetti.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Congratulations on the nomination, and to the family that's provided so many things to the city and friendship to my family over the years. Thank you for producing such a fine boy. I want to thank you, too, for the focus that I think you can bring here, because this year should be a turnaround year for DWP. As much as we could agree about what's broken, I really see a lot of opportunities this year. We've got a great new general manager with the experience of kind of brass tacks management, who understands the renewable space, who's very focused, I think, on building this from inside, but has the functional knowledge that sometimes we haven't always had there. With the passage of Ratepayer Advocate, part of what I wanted to ask you is, what can that position do as we do the implementing ordinance to help you as a board member? Because I think some of us have an idea of what that person, he or she, should do to help us have a second opinion, but we really want to design it in a way that's transparent for the public and that helps the Board of Commissioners, because I think for all of us, we have amazing staff in our departments who often present things to us, but we have no way, unless we're experts in that area, to know when sometimes it isn't exactly the only opinion out there or the only way of doing things. So I'd be curious to hear from you how we can help you as we do those implementing ordinances, Ms. Perry and myself, on establishing this new office that will really, if done well, will not be creating a war between people, but really keeping us on track and helping you make your decisions.
Well, I think from the outset, thank you for that question. We need to embrace the concept of the ratepayer advocate. And as I said in a meeting I had recently, it's never a bad thing to have another set of eyes looking at the same numbers. What I would be guarded against is allowing the ratepayer advocate to become just simply another bureaucratic obstacle towards the trust issues that Councilmember Alarcon was talking about. We wouldn't want to see that sort of extended and continued divisiveness going on.
Sure.
So hopefully the right person will become the ratepayer advocate, and hopefully he will be or she will be embraced, and it will turn out to be a very good thing for the city.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that. And we certainly are looking for someone not who is kind of a political or consumer advocate as much as somebody with real expertise who can give us, rate analysis, who can look at the customer service issues to some degree, and also look at operational issues, kind of a helpful management consultant who can say, look, these are things from a different perspective. And I know you, from your experience in business, know the benefit of having that fresh set of eyes. So thank you for embracing that. The second question I have is around energy efficiency. We talk a lot about going green, and I think Mr. Nichols, in his confirmation, really focused a lot on this. But both where we can get the most bang for the buck in terms of green jobs, which is a big buzzword out there, but also in terms of where we can reduce our carbon footprint and our use of our dirty coal and other forms of energy, is on energy conservation. Do you have any, since you've managed buildings for a long time, what can we be doing better to help people on that front?
From my business standpoint, what we can be doing better is making sure that the energy savings programs we have a real return on investment. And that's not just for commercial usage, but also for residential. If I were to, for example, want to remodel my house and decide to go and put in a solar panel, it's going to cost me a certain amount of money. I'm going to have to figure out how to finance it or pay for it, and then I'm going to have to figure out how long am I going to live in this house and how long is it going to take for the energy savings to essentially pay for the investment that I'm making in the house. I don't know that a lot of times with the programs that I've seen and that I've been experienced with, that aspect has been emphasized. And I think that if we can educate the customers a little bit better about return on investment, we can jigger the programs to make them more meaningful and faster and more responsive, we can achieve better energy conservation in the city.
Well, thank you for that. I'm over my time. I'll leave you with one last thought. The voters not only overwhelmingly passed Ratepayer Advocate, but they also passed Measure J, which was about budget. And if you can help be a voice for as transparent, as robust, and as detailed a budget so that we can, it's going to be a great thing for you guys, it'll be a good thing for us and for the public to really be able to dig down in that. I think, again, this can be a real year of turnaround where we get that transparency, we bring back this department that's built up this city, that's built up some of our great business institutions, and really be a voice for the people and for our businesses out there. So thank you. Super nomination, and congratulations.
Our final speaker, Ms. Perry.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and I wanted to ask if any representative from the Ethics Commission has come downstairs yet with the rest of the file on Mr. Moss. Has anybody come? No, they're on their way, though. They're on their way. Okay, great. All right, well, you know what? I don't want to inconvenience Mr. Moss. He's been here since 9 o'clock this morning in committee and now here in council. So, Mr. President, I would ask, why don't we, I'm sure everything's going to work out just fine, Mr. Moss, but we just need to have the file complete so we can make the complete record on this. If we can hold this item on the desk, Mr. President, until the Ethics Commission gets here, and I'd ask the Chief Legislative Analyst if you can call the Ethics Commission. I think about a half an hour ago they said they'd be down here in 20 minutes. So if you can call them and find out what time they expect to arrive, and then we could let Mr. Moss relax and go back to his day job and hold it on the desk until then so we can make a quick vote on it once it gets here.
We will hold that. We hear that's
Thank you.
imminent. Thank you, and we'll take the vote shortly thereafter when we get that paperwork.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Yes, Mr. Parks?
Number 5, reconsidered. I think both reports were passed, but they're in conflict.
Sure.
We need to
go ahead and
pass the
open
budget
the roll
and finance.
on reconsideration of 5. Close the roll and tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
Thank you, and I think
We
we'll
have to
move the budget
move
and finance.
budget and finance.
Yeah, I will second that as a maker of the motion. Yeah, Mr. Weezer, on number 5? After number 5. Please open the roll, then on the budget and finance. Report, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
Mr. Weezer.
Thank you. I'd ask if we could reconsider number 22. We have a public speaker who'd like to put something into the record.
We've got to reconsider 25 for a card that I missed and 22. So let's go through public comment, and then we'll come back to that. General public comment?
Sure, that's fine. Thank
Our first speaker for general public comment is LaTrenda White. After that is David Grody. Thank you for your patience, and good morning to you.
Good morning. My name is Miss White. I'm new to the area. I'm from Atlanta, Georgia. Good morning to everyone here. I'm coming here to speak about homelessness and transitional housing. I have been in a transitional house for a while. In the house that I've been in, I've had water on my feet, water on my head because the windows are broken. I've had plaster to fall down on top of my head. These are things that in transitional housing you don't expect to get. I also feel like Cinderella or either a personal slave because I've had extra things added to me that shouldn't have been added to me. I'm asking that we start some type of program to where the people that are inside of the transitional housing will be allowed to speak their minds on where they are, be able to move to a better place until they can find a place to live. I'm also asking that in this process that we have an opportunity where we'll be able to sit down with council, have someone talk to us about the rapid housing program and the programs that they have available for you to be moved from one place to another so that you can increase faster. So the reason I'm here, I would like for someone to speak with me when this is over, a council to speak with me so that we can put these issues on the board.
Thank you, ma'am. Where's your address again?
My address?
Which district are you in?
I'm in Miss Perry's district.
Okay, we'll see if we can get some help for you.
Thank you very much.
David Grody is our next speaker. After that is Dan Grody. Good morning.
Morning. How are you? Hi, my name is David Grody. I'm with LA Plumbers Local 78. I'm an unemployed plumber's apprentice, and I've been out of work for about 6 months now. And the football stadium that is being proposed at the moment in downtown LA would be a great benefit to all of us, both that are not working and or those who are currently still working. It'll help us put food on our tables. It'll help us put food on the table and money in our bank so we can do other things for our lives instead of just trying to scrape by. That's really all I have to say. It's a new job and a very good thing for the city. So, have a good day.
Thank you. Dan Grody is next. After that is Ramon Trio. Good morning.
Morning.
I'm Dan Grody, and I've been a member of Plumbers Local 78 Los Angeles for almost 28 years, and have never seen the work situation as bad as it is right now. We had some bad times in the 80s and 90s, but nothing as bad or as long as right now. I've only worked 6 out of the last 24 months. I need work. I know that the stadium and convention project will help jumpstart the work that we so desperately need. I also know people think this is about football. Well, as far as I know, football has really not much to do with it. It's more about revitalizing downtown as a destination, a convention spot, and other happenings that will bring money and jobs to LA. So I hope you will support this project and help put me back to work. Thank you. Dan Grody, Plumbers Local 78, Los Angeles.
Thank you very much, Mr. Grody. Ramon Trillo. After that is Waylon Spencer. Good morning.
Morning. My name is Ramon Trillo. I've been a member of Local 416 since 1987, and I'm here to support the Farmers Field football field. I've worked on the Nokia Center, Staples, and most of the buildings in downtown LA, and I feel that it's a good thing that you guys would support this project since it will bring good jobs to LA and especially to the middle class. Thank you.
Thank you. Waylon Spencer is next. After that is Fabian Morales.
Hello, my name is William Spencer. I'm from Local 416, Reinforcing Ironworkers, from the city of Norwalk. And I'm here to say that I support the Farmers Field Downtown Stadium proposal. This project will create thousands of jobs for the middle class in downtown LA, so we hope that the City Council to support this proposal. Thank you.
Fabian Morales is next. After that is Bill Huey.
Good morning. Hi, my name is Fabian Morales, and I'm with Local 416, Reinforcing Ironworkers. I live in the city of Bellflower. Like what Ramon said, I also worked on the LA Live and the Staples Center, and it was real great. And now it's real bad, as we all know. Having a football stadium in downtown will help a lot of businesses, conventions, and tourism, and also a lot of revenue to the city of Los Angeles, which we really need. Like Guy said, we ain't worried about no football. And we need the city council to support this project for middle-class jobs, for the local economy. That would be real great. Thank you for your time. Have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you. Bill Huey is our next speaker. After that is Dan Carasso.
Good morning, members of the LA City Council. My name is Bill Huey. I'm the president of Fair Housing Coalition, fairhousingcoalition.com. This is Mr. Dan Carasso. He is 94 years old. He's a World War II veteran, and at his age, he is still a tax-paying, hard-working resident of the city of Los Angeles. Unfortunately, the LA Housing Department is trying to fine him the sum of $290,000 based on a double standard. Mr. Carasso owns the Studio Lodge Hotel in North Hollywood. It has 100 units, and 71 of the units are occupied by long-term residents. When these long-term residents first moved in, Mr. Carasso did not charge them the 14% occupancy tax for the first 30 days that hotels charge short-term visitors, because he was told by the LA Housing Department that long-term residents who live in a hotel are not to be charged the occupancy tax. Now, 4 years later, the LAHD wants that 14% occupancy tax for each unit with fines and interest. So Mr. Carasso, after following the advice that he was given 4 years ago by the LAHD, now finds himself in a situation where the LAHD wants $290,000 in fees that he was told he was not allowed to collect. The LAHD is trying to have it both ways, and the ordinance itself is vague. Mr. Carasso, at his age of 94, is employing young people and providing low-cost housing for people who would otherwise be homeless. And he's still being very highly productive. Can you imagine how much better off the finances of the city of L.A. would be if we had more people like Mr. Carasso, who is enriching the tax base, and less able-bodied people staying home, collecting welfare, and living off the system? This is why so many jobs and housing providers are leaving L.A. We have laws and government agencies that are very unfriendly towards business people. Can you imagine how bad this is for the image of City L.A., what you're doing to this 94-year-old gentleman? Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Mr. Labange?
Yeah, could you tell us what district the gentleman is in?
I believe it's in Mr. Krikorian's district.
Well, Mr. Krikorian's a fine councilman, and he'll help.
Okay.
Why don't you come over to the ropes?
Okay.
Thank you. Would Mr.
Come right over here.
Would Mr. Carasso like to speak as well, or did...
You know what?
Yep.
I was going to ask. Councilman,
got it.
want to speak or not?
Come over here.
All right, he says he
Okay.
wants to...
We'll get a microphone. Hold on one second.
Okay, yes, sir. I thank you for the extra effort.
Yeah, no problem. Don't worry. We'll get him a microphone. Just sit tight, and then after that will be Dr. Clyde Williams.
Yeah,
So
should I-
hold on one second, Mr. Carasso.
Yes, sir.
We've got one there. Is it live? Testing. Hold on. We got another one. There you go, Mr. Carasso.
Testing, 1, 2. Yeah.
There you go. Good morning, sir.
I thank you for the opportunity to be here this morning. I believe that I'm a victim of unconscionable conduct on the part of the Housing Authority. I live in the district of the Honorable Paul Krikorian. The reason why I'm here, because I feel as though I've been treated unjustly, where I was told not to collect occupancy tax per person staying over 30 days. And I followed what I was told when I took over the hotel. Then later on, sometime later, I get audited, and they came up with a $417,000 assessment. That was reduced because we advanced $85,000, which we shouldn't have. Moreover, I would like to tell the honorable members of the City Council that my hotel is not a hotel because over 70% are long-term residents. They were construed as transients because we didn't have a little bit of a writing when they registered to notify the long-term resident that they would be treated as transients unless there was something in writing. My tenants were well aware of the fact that we didn't charge them 14%. Not only that, but the reason for the ordinance, the transient occupancy tax ordinance, is the fact that tourists come here and supposedly benefit the hotels. I do not have that kind of a hotel. We have no tourists. Everybody that comes to our hotel live in the San Fernando Valley. We're a little community hotel, and we offer extremely reasonable rental rates. Most of our people are on a limited income. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Next speaker is Dr. Clyde Williams.
Yes, sir. Can I...
And we'll make sure we get a representative from your council district to speak with you. Mr. Krikorian himself. And then after that is Ruth Weinberg. After Dr. Williams will be Ruth Weinberg. Sure. He's referring to you. Would like to go first, Ms. Weinberg? Come on. Go ahead. And we'll have Dr. Williams. Thank you, Dr. Williams.
I want to tell you about a the very unreasonable attitude of rent control, what it has done, to my husband. We spent over $350,000 remodeling since my husband inherited from his mother in 1982. Since then, we have consistently improved it, modernizing the kitchens, the bathrooms, the main house, adding wherever we could area, and also adding air conditioning, which nobody else has. It is indeed a luxury apartment. However, this luxury apartment, we were not able to get a luxury unit under rent control, although we tried both just and reasonable capital improvement, and so on. At the time, we were told that if the tenants moved out, willingly or unwillingly, we were able to, my time is going fast. The purport of everything is that my husband has suffered medically and psychically because of this, not able to get a decent return on his investment. Although, on one occasion, the tenants went to the rent control to stop payment of the water bill for each of them, although we had spent $8,000 on doing that very thing. That's it.
Thank you very much, Ms. Weinberg. Appreciate your comments this morning. Dr. Williams is our next speaker. Yes, Mr. Labonge, would you?
The last speaker, where was her address, so maybe one of us could help her?
We'll look at her card, and we'll try to find out and see. Thank you. I'm sorry, our next speaker was Dr. Williams. Go ahead, Dr. Williams, because I'm sure your card's in here, sir, but why don't you go, Dr. Williams, and we'll come back. Just going to go in the order here. Thank you.
Dr. Clyde Williams, El Sereno. State Route 710, we're still going. Last night they had an online meeting. It was ridiculous. It was a farce. It was too complicated for LA. And it would have been nice for my wife, who's a database administrator for the state of California, but not for us. What are they doing? Fortunately, they're going to give us a scoping meeting in El Sereno next week on the 30th, and then one in Highland Park on the 5th, where people can actually go and hear what they're talking about. However, that's one of the problems. We don't have a single page that is consistent for everybody. Agencies get a different description than the public. Individuals get a different interpretation of those. However, there are some written ones, such as develop a financially feasible project, taking into consideration cost effectiveness, viability, funding strategies, including public-private partnerships. However, in an environmental impact report, you only have social and economics. So why are they including this as purpose and need for this particular project? Because they want to cover something. They also say that State Route 710 North Gap closure would complete the natural goods, that is freight, corridor within Los Angeles. That is, we're going to get trucks one way or the other. So that's the only way that it can be financially feasible. So I'd highly recommend any citizens of the city of Los Angeles to try to express their concerns either on the 30th of March in El Sereno or on the 5th of April in Highland Park. Thank you.
Armanak Noorajanian is our next speaker. After that will be Patrick Mannion.
Respectable City Council members, dear fellow Angelinos, my name is Armanak Noorajanian. Actually, I used to be a liberal writing candidate for District 8. Actually, I want to tell public about the results of those elections on March 8th, International Women's Day, where actually, according to Office of the Clerk of City of Los Angeles, about 220,000 ballots were cast, and 90,000 absentee ballots were cast as well, separate from 120,000 of regular votes. And also, I hope that actually I'll be able to win these elections, and I promise to double wages of the city workers, in case I win those elections, and get the money out of those gross excessive wages of $117,000.
And also, I want to debunk some myth about that oil producers' tax not being rejected, which was being broadcast on over LACT View. You know, there was no verifiable source of information with this kind of statement. And I think that if we count the votes and after the final canvassing, you know, office of the city of the City of Los Angeles will actually tally up votes and will produce that most of the vast majority of Angelinos did vote for raising taxes $1.44 against oil producers in order to eliminate the budget deficit. Also, I believe that was actually city government should expedite issuing housing vouchers en masse. It's 1,000 poor Angelinos wait in line for more than 3 years and receive instead broken promises in order to avoid, you know, riots and...
Thank you. Patrick Mannion is our next public speaker. Then we'll go to Van Nuys, and Donna Pearman will be next. Good morning, sir. Thank you for your patience.
Not at all, Mr. Garcetti. Good morning, Mr. Garcetti, members of the City Council. I'm here on behalf of Mr. Carasso. Mr. Carasso is fortunate enough to live long enough to see that the World War II memorial was completed. It was completed in 2004, 59 years after the last shot was fired in World War II. The Korean War Memorial was completed in '89, but that was in '76. The Koreans gave us the Korean Bell, as Ms. Han knows. The Koreans were more grateful to our veterans than we were. Mr. Carasso should probably be placed, you know, and people like him and people of that era should probably be placed in a special category. You know, at this time in his life, he shouldn't be here defending himself. He fought the Nazis, he fought the fascists, and now he's here before you to defend himself and his rights. I fought the communists, I'm a housing provider, and now I find that my government wants to spread my wealth around. You know, that's not right, that's not American. That shouldn't be what we're here for. Ms. Han, with a little luck, next year you'll be in Congress, God willing, and we all hope you are. If you'd be kind enough to get Mr. Hu and myself a meeting with the Veteran Affairs Committee, we'd certainly appreciate it. I don't believe that they know how the veterans in this City of the Angels are being treated. It's never too early to start making campaign promises. So, good luck to you. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Garcetti.
Donna Pearman's our next speaker in Van Nuys. After that, we'll come back, and Matt Dowd will be our next speaker here in Council Chambers. Good morning, Ms. Pearman.
Yeah, good morning. Anyway, Mary Fogler couldn't come here. She's not feeling well, and I see tomorrow you have the right to carry, not to have open carry. We have to have that because people like Gaddafi, we need to protect ourselves. Anyway, I came here specifically to talk about the CRA, but you're undiplomatic. You denied my right to speak. I came here. I put the numbers in before you closed those things, but they didn't give it to you. You opened and closed the items so fast, faster than a jet. It took me an hour for me to get here by the MTA from Panorama City. You have 20 CRA projects over $80 million, mostly affordable housing projects, and what's still allowed. On number 23, I put in before you close the project. One project went from $12 million to $45 million. Another project went up from $2 to $10 million. Two went from $10 million to $15 million. And one from $5 to $10 million. This is ridiculous. CRA works with million-dollar projects. You also include street improvement, park improvement. At least you named it that. Who knows if you're really going to use it for that. You're finding any way, possibly a way to get every bit of money used for the CRA in any possibly way you can do it. And you made sure that you went through this agenda quicker than anything. When you're in Van Nuys and you're putting it on in, it takes a while to put it on in so that You opened it and closed it before she can even write it down. No politician cares. We need politician reform. You're blaming middle-class city employees when the high-priced CAOs with the free cars and a few huge salaries, those are the ones we need to go after, the highest salary. And I saw your salary went very easily $149,000 to $78,000 in a short time. We have $2 million for Bunker Hill, $4.6 million for retrofit. Oh, did my time go up? I can't.
Yes, if you'd like to finish your sentence? Ms. Perriman? Okay.
Do I have any more time?
No, I was letting you finish your sentence if you were mid-sentence.
Oh, okay. Anyway, we need to get rid of the CRA and we need to stop going after city employees.
Super. Thanks so much. Matt Dowd is our next speaker. After that will be Richard Robinson. Good morning.
Yes, thank you. Well, first of all, it's the 5-year anniversary. Matt Dowd, 5 years, March 2006. It's ridiculous. It's not worthy of any applause, but here's what I've noticed. Wow, something I've never seen before in 5 years. A commissioner get rejected, it looks like, on the ethics. They were waiting for the ethics report, and they had to leave. And so Richard Alarcon was just talking about the Lynn Alvarez being the best mayoral commission appointment. Well, let's change that to say not the worst, because they're all bad up till now. She is probably the best of a bad bunch, but here's one. Gee, we'll wait for the ethics report. And the ethics report comes in, and there was all kind of problems with the DWP commissioner. I love that. Anyway, back to business, what I'm here for. There's an LAPD sergeant called Mark Reina, R-E-I-N-A, Mark Reina, Venice Beach. There's a petition starting already, but here's what he's doing. He's writing misdemeanor citations on guys with guitars, amplifiers at Venice Beach for being heard over 150 feet. Some other ordinance, it's like 4 o'clock on a Sunday or a Saturday in that park with all that noise and all those stores pumping out their music and everything. And here's a cop targeting one of the guys who's on the lawsuit already after the injunction. You know, these are the things, man. This is you talk about ethics and everything. Here's an officer taking you down the tube again, because these are what the attorneys love. These misdemeanor citations over, after a federal judge gave us an injunction. I mean, how long do you want to keep losing for? That's the question.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Richard Robinson. After that, we'll go back to Van Nuys, and Rick Nightingale will follow. Good morning,
Mr.
sir.
President, members, marriage was instituted by God long before churches and preachers. Sir, 1 John 4:8 tells us that God is love. Webster's Third International Unabridged Edition tells us that it is relationship. Our relationship with God is a loving relationship. We love God. 1 John 4:8, God is love. Anyone who believes that God intends to limit love to relationship between one woman and one man, perhaps Adam and Eve, will try to buy the Brooklyn Bridge. God is not homophobic. The Old Testament is a living testament, but Jesus gave his life in order to free us from 2,000 years of this present day. We recognize that if there's anything
that can defend marriage. It is the right of transgender lovers to express their love through marriage. Mr. President.
Thank you, sir. Our next speaker is Rick Nightingale in Van Nuys. After that will be Walter Bechtel back here in council chambers. Good morning, Mr. Nightingale.
Good morning. This is Rick Nightingale. I'll tell you, this our LAPD chief, Beck, I don't know why he makes all these false statements and so forth. Let's get back to that last week about immigration, about excuse me, the stops, for drunk driving and so forth, where they impound cars for illegals and so forth when they don't have the registration. And he says that they sit there for a month and it's a burden on the people because they can't afford it. It's a downright lie. Because, like I said, I talk about this immigration friend of mine that I really admire and so forth. I went and got his car for him. It got impounded. He had insurance, but he's an illegal. They impounded it. It was there for a day. And I went down because I had to sign my name, and I got his car for him, and it only took a day. Yes, there was a fine. He had to pay the storage fee for a day. He had to pay the towing fee. I mean, the towing fee and the storage. But let's just tell the truth about the situations. Yeah, it's a hardship for him. It's supposed to be a hardship for him because it's illegal. If it wasn't a sanctuary city, we wouldn't have this problem. But no, you want a sanctuary city. Fine. Then you got to pay the penalty. Why should us law-abiding citizens have to go with the law? Why should I have to give my driver's license? I'll just give them a name. Let them find me later on if they can. I mean, this is about the story. They don't show up. You talk about the underground economy. It's billions of dollars going to Mexico. But no, that's okay with you people. Even like this friend of mine, he don't pay income tax. He has so much money, it's unbelievable. Somebody crashed his car, he spends $8,000 to buy a new one. Cash. Because they don't have to pay taxes. Like you said, why pay taxes? I don't get nothing for it. They don't want it. So, I mean, why don't you guys get with the program? Tell the truth when you have to. Thank you.
Walter Bechtel is our next speaker. After that, we'll go to Hilda Castro in Van Nuys.
Okay, I guess it's still morning. Oh, my time's up? No. I just wanted to say, I don't know, sometimes I don't make a lot of sense, but as far as I can tell, you guys are complaining about whether or not we should have a football stadium. I don't know about that, but as far as I can tell, I think that if you're going to make a football stadium, you might want to try it out towards the Lancaster area. That seems to be a better idea. The land is cheaper. The people up towards Lancaster, I was born and raised in Lancaster, and those people out towards the mountain areas to the eastern side of the area are more of a football kind of a people anyway. And the football players themselves, they like to do off-road things, and there's all kinds of open area for them. And the weather is more suited to a football kind of a weather situation. You have an airport there. The Palmdale Airport is ready for usage, and there is a lot of land out there. There's streets demarcated for streets, but there's no buildings there. It just seems to me the better idea, since you're strapped for money, is to go up there towards the Lancaster area. Would you say, Mr. Bechtel, Lancaster isn't the city of Los Angeles? I don't see how workers from the city of Los Angeles won't benefit if you're the ones that are going to actually make the stadium. And also, that doesn't make sense since most of the aqueduct is loaned by the city of Los Angeles. You've already done something like that before. You could own the land that the football stadium is on, and the workers, it just doesn't make any sense to put it in the city because, the football people bring a lot of crime, and we're trying to get the crime out of the city. And also, we got an overpopulation problem that would move a lot of the people out towards the Lancaster area. So I just think, don't stop the project, just put it somewhere else.
Hilda Castro is our next speaker in Van Nuys. Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning, Mr. Arcetti. Hi, my name is Hilda Castro. I am here again, but this time not to complain about my city, but to say thank you, Mr. Cardenas, for the good work that you are making it happen in my city, specifically in my street, Blythe Street. The future home of the seniors, I'm sure, will bring respect to the city and will get the youngsters out of the street. And by the way, Mr. Donald Trump said in Facebook that he wants to build, he's looking for a place to build a golf course. And I said, why not? But nice. It would be excellent. Talk to somebody. So I just want to say thank you very much, Mr. Cardenas, for winning again. In fact, I didn't vote for you, but thank you. And please keep our teachers' jobs, please. We needed to have kids in school. So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. That closes our general public comment right now. We'll move to Mr. Weezer for an introduction, and then we will take up a couple other items. Mr. Weezer.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Colleagues, I'd like to, at this time, introduce to you members of a Russian delegation here to visit the City of Los Angeles and City Hall. They are executives who work in public works in Russia, here to visit some sites with some of our public works construction areas. And I want to thank the Board of Public Works for hosting them. There are 15 executives here today, and there will be 15 more arriving. I want to give you a huge welcome to the City of Los Angeles. May we share and learn together. Welcome to the City of Los Angeles.
Yes, Mr. Lavange.
I want to add to Mr. Weezar's great comments. Please stand. Okay, just so you know, this is St. Petersburg is a sister city of Los Angeles. And I also want to say there was one mistake that was made years ago in the late 1979s where we did not go to Moscow for the Olympic Games. And then you made one mistake where you didn't come to Los Angeles, but we made the first mistake, so it's our fault first. And if you translate that, tell them we should learn never to boycott, but always be together. The more you're together as athletics and through other things, it works when it comes to the Olympic movement, Mr. Parks, when it comes to the Olympic movement. You agree with me, Mr. Parks? All right, good. You could boycott other things, but for the Olympic movements, bring the world together. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Labanz, and Dobre utro and Dobro požalovat. Thank you for being here. With that, we'll go to our general public comment on, I'm sorry,
Can we consider 22 and 25, please?
yeah, we're going to get to that. We're going to go straight through in just one second. If we can open up 25, and I thought it was, and 22?
Yeah.
Is that the other one? Can we reconsider both of those, please? Please open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote on reconsideration.
13 ayes.
That is both before us. Let's take up 22 first. Estela Lopez, followed by Donna Pearman on item number 22.
Thank you very much, council members, for reconsidering. Estela Lopez from the Central City East Association. I simply wanted to enter something into the record, and that is that one of the properties listed in Appendix A of the CRA report, which outlines those properties that were conveyed today to the City of Los Angeles, one of those properties in Central City East, 600 South San Pedro Street, was the center of some controversy back 25 years ago. That controversy was resolved through an agreement between the CRA and the Central City East Association, which later were developed into actual conditions that were placed on that property. And so I simply want to leave here with you today and give to the Sergeant-at-Arms all the documentation that pertains to that property, to the agreement, and to the conditions that go with that property. Thank you very much, Mr. Weezer.
Thank you. Donna Pearman and Van Nuys, our next speaker.
I didn't get to see the Amendment A, but all I know is that we can't afford to be paying for the CRA. The CRA is going into almost billions of dollars on these projects that are not necessary that we have. In the meantime, that they're asking sacrifices from city employees to be able to pay more for their medical and, more for their medicine and every which way they can possibly wait to go after the city employees. In the meantime, we give all these projects over to the CRA. This is not right. We can't afford to be able to be subsidizing the CRA in every project that they come up with. And it's equally difficult when you're only giving partial information. But I didn't get to speak on the project that I wanted to speak on, number 23, which went into almost lots of millions of dollars over this thing. We need to be able to take care of the city of Los Angeles and through other ways other than the CRA. The CRA is stealing, getting way too much allotment of money allowed for all their projects, and you're finding a way around, and I don't believe that Governor Brown is really going after the CRA, because I could see 20 projects of the CRA projects that went into so fast that you couldn't even blink an eye. That person didn't even have the right time to write it down. And this is just another example of a CRA project. And I have never seen a CRA project that was necessary, anything that hasn't done any good. And they just throw a little bit of affordable housing and a few little projects to make people love them. But they're a crooked agency, and you're crooked along with them. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That'll close item 22's public comment. If we can open the roll again, close the roll and tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
That is approved. If we could now take up public comment again on 25. Mr. Dowd, if you'd like to come forward on 25.
Yes, thank you. Reconsider the item because it's important. And here's why. This is good. I like this because we're extending a contract for this dude to address the impacts of the CRA retirements in December. So, if the CRA retirements, it's got to be good. Anything that says CRA retirement, I think, is a good thing. But here's the problem now. The impact of the CRA retirements in December 2010, but we're extending this contract from January 2012 to June 2012. And how long does it take to address the impacts of the CRA retirement?
I'll close our public comment on item 25. Again, if we can please prepare the roll and tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
That is approved. We'll go at item number 1 and 2, if we can take those up together. Mr. Dowd, if you'd like to come forward on those 2 items.
Yes, the Little Tokyo Business District, which is right next door here, right outside. Tom LaBonge, one of his favorites, I'm sure, but here's what we got to stop calling everything great. See, if you call everything great, then nothing's great. I don't know why you don't understand that. God is great. Everything else is just good or okay or better. Just like Little Tokyo. Don't be stand up and go, oh, it's great. Oh, the commissioners are great. It's a great family, great cops, great city, great water, great pueblos. If everything's great, nothing's great. All right, item 2, thank you for the comedy section of the Los Angeles City Council is over, and now it's Matt Dowd. No, because a lot of it's comedy. Everything's comedy around here when you've been doing it this long. So, I don't even know what I'm talking about here. Los Angeles DOT, vehicle for hire driver and vehicle permitting functions. All right, look, here's what you need to do. Get the DOT to, let me check this one here for a hot second. Oh, here we go. Yes. Adjusting the fees. Of course, if I read deep enough into the item, it's raising the fees. They never say raise the fees in the city of LA, by the way. They're learning from the Russians out the back. They've got the biggest history of corruption ever. I'm glad the city of LA is learning from the best.
We'll close public comment on 1. Number 2, we still have a card from Matt Armstrong, if you'd like to come forward. Good morning.
Good morning, Council. My name is Matt Armstrong. I am the president of the Los Angeles County Ambulance Association, representing 17 private ambulance services in the city of Los Angeles. I'm here to oppose the proposed fee increases for the vehicle permits and driver and attendant permits. In light of the economic times we're all enduring, we are transporting more and more patients with little to no insurance. Our current Medi-Cal reimbursement rates are under our cost. We've just been issued an additional 10% cut. The state's also going to remove the MADI fund, which helps reimburse for uncollected debt. All these results continue to pile on fees for providers, and our lack of reimbursement results basically in one thing: fewer vehicles we can put onto the road. With fewer vehicles on the road, that's longer responses for our sick and injured. Thank you.
Thank you very much. If any members wishing to be heard on item number 2, if not, let's take up 1 and 2 together, please. Please open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
Those are approved on first reading. Next item, please.
Item number 4 was being held on the desk for report.
Okay, I think we are going, Ms. Perry, I think asked that that be continued for a week. Is that correct? Are we still waiting? Ms. Perry? Sorry.
The Ethics Commission still has not brought down a completed report. We have Mr. Moss's testimony on the record.
Right.
And we will, CLA's office will work to make sure that they act on it in the next few days.
Okay.
I don't know why it isn't complete, but I don't want this to reflect poorly on the nominee, because it shouldn't. It has nothing to do with him. It's merely a procedural issue. So if we could continue this today. Today is the 22nd, so it's Tuesday. If you could just give us 1 week, and I'm sure if we get it done sooner, I'll bring it up sooner. But
Then if you want to do that procedurally, if we continue it for a week, we can't bring it back sooner, but we can continue it for a day and keep continuing.
What should we do? Leave it on the table?
We continue it just for one meeting or 2 meetings. And
All right, let's just do it for 2 meetings,
Okay.
and then see if
All
we can
right, so we
pressure.
continue till Friday.
Get some pressure brought to bear to get this done.
25th. That'll be this Friday.
But again, I don't want it to reflect on the nominee. This is a internal issue, and why they don't have it done, I don't know, but we will find out.
Okay. All right. Thank you. We have the next item, number 6. Sorry, Mr. Parks?
On 2.
Sorry?
Forthwith on 2.
Forthwith on 2, and 29 as well. Without objection. And let's take up item number 6. Our last item, Mr. Zine has called special. Mr. Dennis P. Zine.
Yes, sir.
And don't forget, Mr. Zine is being roasted this week for all of you who have not yet bought tickets.
Don't forget.
But why would
Thank
this
you.
week be different than any other week?
Thank you, Mr. Alarcon. Are we on number 6?
Number 6, Dennis P. Zine.
Thank you, Mr. President. Well, we have a $46 million deficit that we have to solve between now and the end of this fiscal year, which ends June. We have a policy that we adopted in previous years. In 2009, I introduced a motion asking for a complete review of all travel expenses by city staff commissioners. Through that motion, we found out that $1.8 million is being appropriated for travel during 2009-10. March 2010, the mayor and the controller issued a joint memo regarding spending controls and a suspension of non-reimbursable general fund travel limited to Sacramento and Washington trips, Los Angeles Police Department exemption, and liabilities and fiscal issues. So we have a policy in place having some restrictions. We have a $46 million deficit. And earlier this month, the mayor issued a joint memo with the controller urging all departments to reduce expenditures for non-salary general fund account appropriations, reminding all departments to adhere closely to our travel policy adopted. The recent NLC, National League of Cities Conference in Washington, D.C. had a low turnout of about 1,500 participants, and many people used office holder and other funds to pay for that because cities across the country are struggling to pay the bills. What I'm asking for today is another step further, that Sacramento, Washington only be traveled by city personnel for legislative advocacy, and completely eliminate an exemption process that can be approved by Deputy Mayor of Budget and Finance. In addition to that, per diem costs associated with travel, and we know with the housing department, the general manager is just been removed, where a report showed that $150,000 was spent over the last 2 years of travel, food, and other incidentals, that we eliminate, I should say, the per diem costs associated with travel that adheres to our policy of travel. And around this horseshoe, no one is going to buy us a free lunch. We're going to pay for it out of our own pocket. So why is it that if we go to Sacramento or Washington, the taxpayers should pay for that? What I'm proposing in this modification is that the travel, the hotel be covered by the taxpayers on those trips that are necessary, but the per diem be eliminated while we're trying to struggle to balance this budget with this $46 million deficit. So what we're asking for today is that we approve this modification. In other words, if someone needs to travel, it would be to Sacramento, Washington, legislative advocacy, other expenses that would be incurred by the taxpayers, such as the food, etc., would not be covered. Office holder account or other expenses would apply. The commissioners reported that $150,000 over 2 years travel that was spent by the housing department, and if we look at the city of Los Angeles with our travel expenses, every dollar counts in trying to solve this deficit. So that would be the request, that we move forward on this matter to save the dollars so we can come up with a solution to eliminate or at least reduce furloughs and continue the core services so we can finally help solve this budget crisis of $46 million between now and the end of the year. That'll be my request, Mr. President. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Zion. Anything you'd like to add? Or you feel good?
Just vote yes.
You feel good about that speech? All right. Well, Mr. Parks has some thoughts about that.
I just wanted to get a little clarity. I can understand the travel for legislative issues, but are we also putting that restriction on personnel that's going on police work to pick up suspects and things of that nature? We're saying that they are also
this is for city, excluding the police personnel.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
They would be covered on per diem, but the personnel from city council, our staff would not.
Mr. Labange.
Yeah, well, let me ask a question. What if some member of the city family is ordered somewhere by a court? Is there some refinement? Is there someone at the center table, Mr. Miller, who could maybe give us some guidelines? Because here's the thing. I think there should be a travel officer somewhere who stamps approval or no approval. But Mr. Parks just brought up a very important concept. If someone has to go to Nevada or Arizona or Texas to pick someone up, how do they deal with that?
I know from my experience in law enforcement, there is appropriation by the county, the district attorney, if they're requesting that person come back, extradition, that there is coverage and there's a dollar value given by the county on those cases where they want to extradite. If they don't want to extradite, then they don't extradite. It doesn't come out of city funds for law enforcement.
I understand that, but what if they're going up to Kern County and they got to go up a day before? Well, I don't know. I'm just saying, is this well thought of?
Well, we're trying to save the money, and we're trying to balance the budget.
I got it. We're all for saving money, Dennis, but I just don't want to...
There is an exemption for police department if they need that, but if you're talking about extradition, that's different versus training. We have officers that are in Israel right now doing bomb squad training. That would be covered. The expenses would be covered, the per diem would be covered on a law enforcement mission. We're talking about other city personnel doing other travel, and we're trying to...
This does not affect harbor, airports, or water and power?
No.
Okay. All right. Jerry, anything you want to add?
No.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Labange. Any other changes or thoughts? If not, let's go ahead and prepare the roll and tabulate the vote.
Mr. President, amending motion has been circulated.
I'm sorry, it has not yet? Oh, it has been, okay, as amended. Please prepare the roll then and tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
That is approved. Next order of business, please.
Council has motions for posting and referral.
Those are posted and referred.
That clears the desk.
Okay, any announcements, colleagues? If not, if I can please ask everybody to rise for adjourning motions. ask everybody in council chambers? Thank you. Colleagues, I ask you that you join with me today. I know many folks will probably want to say something about the passing of our dear friend and probably the brightest and greatest light in terms of public service the city has ever seen, Warren Christopher. Warren Christopher passed away this Friday night, Saturday morning. I was driving in the rain going off to my monthly Navy service when I heard the news. It was, like for so many of us here in Los Angeles, a real kick to the stomach, not only because of who Chris was for so many of us, but also that very few people knew that he was sick and so close to death. He and I had been trading calls for about 3.5 weeks, and I spoke with his son last Wednesday, his son Scott, who mentioned to me that his father was sick and that he had encouraged his father to finally start telling a couple people about it. And while he was unable to speak that day, he said there's good days and bad days, and Dad wanted me to tell you that that he is sick and he's planning for his eventual passing. And if he asked if I would tell the mayor and the police chief and a couple folks from the county. He told me that. I had no idea just how soon that death would come. I thought this was a matter, he said that the cancer that he had gotten in his liver and bladder had spread to his brain. And those of us who have known folks who have brain cancer know that that is too often times a death sentence. But let us celebrate who Chris is and was. I think myself, like so many people, were mentored by his incredible generosity. He was somebody who was defined by his humility, his nobility, and his ability. He was somebody who was able to make an impact here locally, make an impact on our nation, and on administration after administration, and also on the international sphere. A rare trifecta of really, at every single level, and be a great Angelino. He was born in the Great Plains in North Dakota, moved here in 1939 with his parents to Hollywood. He used to deliver the Citizen News in Hollywood, graduated as a sheik from Hollywood High School at the young age of 16, where he excelled on the debate squad. And after he graduated, he went to become an officer in the Navy, even though it was 1945, and he did participate at the end of the war as an ensign in the United States Navy. He went to Stanford, and Stanford Law School was the first graduate of Stanford Law School to ever clerk for a Supreme Court justice, and began working at a very conservative firm as the first Democrat, really, at the time, and the first Democrat to ever make partner, but a great L.A. business and institution, O'Melveny & Myers, which was a firm, when we talk about loyalty, that in between all his public service he would always return to, and which he knew and loved so much. He asked me a few years ago to speak to all of the associates at a luncheon, and his greatest joy was probably the scholarships he funded through O'Melveny & Myers for at-risk youth in Los Angeles area. He called me a month and a half ago and asked me if I would keynote the address this year, and I had no idea he was setting that up, knowing that he probably wouldn't be there. He worked first in public service as a Deputy Attorney General in the Johnson administration, worked on, among other things, before that he worked in California for Pat Brown. That's actually where he got his start. And Pat Brown worked closely with Pat Brown and was involved in the commission that dealt after the Watts riots with the situation, something that was mirrored later when he was head of the commission named after him, the Christopher Commission. But as a Deputy Attorney General in the Johnson administration, among other things, he worked on the Civil Rights Act of 1968, and he and Cyrus Vance, who was a Deputy Defense Secretary at the time, worked on investigating what happened in 1968 during the Democratic Convention, and he personally was the prosecutor of police who went over the line with protesters there in Chicago. He returned to Los Angeles and worked at O'Melveny & Myers again, but was tapped again for public service when President Carter made Cyrus Vance his Secretary of State, and Mr. Vance asked Chris to be his Deputy Secretary of State. And in that time, he worked on things as diverse as the Panama Canal being passed back to the Panamanians, and the release of the Iranian-held hostages, U.S. hostages. And there's just a quote that he talked about, because after Cyrus Vance was no longer Secretary of State, Chris felt he wanted to be Secretary of State and was passed by. And he nevertheless stayed on, because he said, I committed to being Deputy Secretary of State. And with the day that, those of you who know Chris know how reserved he was, how kind of genteel he is, how shy and unassuming. But when the hostages were released, they all hugged him and celebrated and thanked him personally. And he said, "What struck me then, as it does now, is how very strange, nearly magical life can be. Who would have predicted only 9 months before that one of the luckiest things ever to happen to me would be not being named Secretary of State, not finding myself in a job that would have kept my feet firmly planted in Washington. The lesson I draw from this chapter of my life is simple and a little ironic. The chance of a lifetime is not necessarily the next rung up the ladder. It may be the one on which you already stand." I had lunch with Chris probably twice a year at the California Club, and we had kind of an unspoken understanding because he wanted to catch up on City Hall gossip, and I'd want to tap his mind for his experience, and so we would both tolerate answering a question from the other just to get the chance to ask something back and hear what we really wanted to from the other person. And he once said about talking, because he was one of the great negotiators, and folks, if they ever criticized him, said, "Oh, well, he talked and was too polite and too much of a gentleman." But I think his greatest moments in public diplomacy, his greatest impact on the people whose lives he touched was that way that he did talk. And he said, once, "Most talking is not glamorous. Often it is tedious. It can be excruciating and exhausting." This is maybe fitting for the talking that we sometimes hear and do in chambers. But talking can also tame conflict. It can lift the human condition and move us close to the ideal of peace. This city has lost its greatest light, somebody who was a dear friend and a great mentor of mine, someone who, to the very end, was modest in his ways and so deep in the impact that he's had on our lives. Los Angeles certainly has lost its best. We miss you, Chris, and may you rest in peace. Mr. LaBonge.
I just wanted to follow that. He was a shipmate of John Farrar, ironically, which was interesting, as Eric mentioned, went to Hollywood High. And I know we spoke earlier of Joe Sorrell's passing, and someone made the reference about Mount Rushmore with Tom Bradley, John Farrar, and Joe Sorrell. Obviously, this man and what he did for this country, what he did for this city, was truly an outstanding individual and should be placed in that same category. God bless his family, and God bless the life that he lived and the contributions that he made.
Ms. Hahn, did you want to say something?
Well, I really, when I think about Chris, I think about a peacemaker, and you kind of alluded to that in your last quote. And whether it was Secretary of State, whether it was heading up the Christopher Commission, I mean, really it was about restoring peace in our cities, in our country, in our world. And he really, I look at him as having that be his ultimate goal in everything he did. And he used reform and he used accountability to get there, but he really was about peace for all of us in our lives, and you're absolutely right, and that was a great tribute that you gave, Eric, and we really will miss him. He was a shining light for the international community as well.
Mr. Rosendahl.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President, and I appreciate your eloquence about Chris. Those of us who knew him, I had the pleasure of knowing him in many different circumstances, but in Dennis Zines District there in Tarzana, I used to do a town hall every year, and in 1992, I had Chris there and Daryl Gates there, and we had this heavy discussion, and then the next day we had the riots and the Rodney King situation. He was a member of the Pacific Council, which I had the pleasure of being part of that group. And in that group, just by his mere presence in the room, everybody was lit up because he is such a historic treasure to all of us. And he was a good listener. He listened, you know, and he never acted like a big shot. And everybody knew when he walked in there he was a big shot. My God, he was an international legend in so many ways. But he treated everybody with respect and dignity, and people just felt good about him. I loved him. I mean, he was one of these people in power over the years that I truly appreciate. Sometimes I get cynical about people, and sometimes I wonder. But with him, there was always a soul in him that always shined out. And everything he did and everybody he interacted with was with integrity and decency and humility. And when I picked up the paper and saw that he died, I just thought of hundreds of conversations I've had with him over 25 years, and I must say it was a privilege to know him, and he was truly one of my mentors, and may he rest in peace.
Other tributes? Ms. Hahn.
Thanks. I would like us to adjourn in the memory of Bernice Grigsby, who passed away on March 1st. Bernice was the firstborn to Love and Lula Jones. She grew up in Tyler, Texas, where her father was a deacon and her mother sung in the choir. When she was 16, her mother passed away, and her father took her and her 3 brothers and 1 sister to Oklahoma, where his 2 sisters lived, and they helped raise the younger children and made sure that Bernice completed school. In 1947, Bernice relocated to Los Angeles with her husband and 5 children, and while here, she attended East Los Angeles College, where she studied to become a nurse. She was always involved in the church and was an Eastern Star for many years, and joined New Mount Calvary and became a member of the Mothers Board, where she served until her health prevented her from attending church. She will always be remembered for always opening up her home as a place where people felt welcome, and her contagious smile and laughter that brought a special sparkle to her eyes. She's survived by 6 children: Lynn, Alice, John, Betty, Shirley, and Rose, 24 grandchildren, 50 great-grandchildren, and 43 great-great-grandchildren. And 1 brother, Errol Jones, and a host of nieces and nephews and cousins. Certainly she has left a terrific legacy just in her own family.
Thank you very much.
Wow.
Other tributes?
43.
Adjourning motions?
Great.
If not, Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll? We will next be in session tomorrow, Wednesday, March 23rd, 2011.